topic number 3 says, do you agree with the steps here on how to enact revolution? If not, what would be your idea of enacting revolution? Or do you disagree that revolution is unnecessary? So this takes us to a YouTube video. I'm going to play as much of it as I can, but it's kind of a long video. I like to, just for those out there, I like to keep these videos between 7 and 10 minutes. So I'll play, I'll play about 15 minutes of it. I'm going to have to jump around a little bit.
Hi there. In this video, I'll discuss how we can go about this whole revolution thing, mostly as a primer to new leftists, but it also might be useful for those that have been around for a while as well. This will be timestamped, so feel free to jump around if you'd like. Let's get started. 1. Why do we want revolution? This is a relatively simple question that can be answered with many volumes, but I'll keep it simple. Capitalism is an untenable and unstable system built on the inherent injustice of market allocation, as well as the destruction of the environment and commodification of everything around us. It hurts us, the planet, and pretty much just about anything else. A deeper introductory analysis of capitalism and its faults can be found in an earlier video I made here. Only through revolution, the overthrow of one class, the ruling class, by another class, the working class, can we finally escape the endless boom and bust cycles, the crises of overproduction, and the ruin of our common earth. The system that will overtake and supersede capitalism is socialism, in which the market is done away with, the means of production are democratically managed, and the state machinery, in the hands of the working class, is made to work for the working class and society as a whole. For a deeper introductory dive into socialism and its inherent superiority over capitalism, take a look at this video I made here. Now that's all well and good, but how do we go about this whole revolution thing exactly? 2. The approach to revolution. As much as you and I would love to just flip a switch to achieve our goals, sadly the real world is different. Only tireless work towards revolution and the appropriate material conditions can result in a situation that could possibly lead to the overthrow of capitalism. What exactly does this tireless work look like, though? Simple. The building of organizations, education, direct action, mutual aid, applying the mass line, and ceaseless agitation, amongst other things. All of this will be touched on soon. Let's take this one by one. What's this about building organizations? 3. Building organizations and their importance. Human beings are a cooperative species. We rarely work alone, and anything worth doing requires collective efforts of the masses of people from their various walks of life. It goes without saying that anything you can do on your own can be done more quickly, efficiently, and cleanly by a dedicated organization, and politics is no different. Now, what forms of organizations are we talking about exactly? Well, that's up to the material conditions of your region and the requirements of your community. Having an appropriate materialist analysis is of prime importance. These organizations can be political parties, or women's groups, or student unions, or even standard workers' unions, amongst many other things. The point being, though, is that nothing can be accomplished without the proper organizations being in place. History has proven that organic mobilization, where people spontaneously mobilize, is at best easily fragmented and crushed, or at worst non existent. Organizations exist to lay the groundwork for that crucial moment, or at least to nudge it along. Once it comes around, though, there is some ready made infrastructure with an appropriate analysis, the people's trust, and a detailed plan of action at hand. Now, the boring organizational aspects of these groups too depend on the material conditions. At times, a highly centralized leadership is necessary. At others, a decentralized umbrella organization with numerous streams of leadership, but nonetheless a single goal. Leadership is fluid, sometimes centralized, sometimes running through multiple streams, depending on the material conditions. There isn't just one answer at all times. Under capitalism, the issues people face, from exploitation to the unjust distribution of resources according to profit rather than need, is painted as moral failings of individuals rather than systemic defects that need to be and definitely can be corrected. In an organization, those that take part, as well as those that directly benefit from the work these groups do, help people develop an appropriate and correct analysis of the situation and the undeniable failings of the capitalist system. In essence, organizations are the key to and school of liberation. To summarize, the point of organizations and their purpose is twofold. Firstly, to directly aid our communities, and in doing so, broadcast the failures of the capitalist system. And secondly, to build a preliminary form of dual power and equip the people with the necessary tools so that, in that crucial moment, we can properly take advantage and win our liberation. 4. Education and its importance. Now, what of education? This doesn't mean only reading theory, although that is of paramount importance too. It also means organic education through organizing, be it understandings of legal frameworks, public relations, basic medical knowledge, and computer know how. The reason theory is important is because it is a guide to action. It is what allows us to properly understand the world around us and how to go about critiquing and, more importantly, changing it. If you're a new Marxist and want some advice on what you should be doing education wise, take a look at this video here. If you'd like to get a basic reading list on socialism, take a look at this video here. The point of educating yourself in the theory is to be able to develop your criticisms of capitalism and to confidently and accurately share your understanding with your community and those around you. This, combined with direct action, is what builds class consciousness, the very first block towards abolishing capitalism. With that said, what about the other sort of education? Theory can be done on your own or in groups, which is highly recommended, but interpersonal communication skills, how to handle conflict, basic cooperative and democratic participation, accurately finding a solution to a problem found through said cooperative effort, all of this is something that can only really be done in groups. Finally, professional organizations tend to grow the, let's say, more boring but still very necessary stuff as well, from administrative skills and technical organization of transport groups, etc., to things like video editing and Photoshop skills or creative writing in the forms of pamphlets or seminars and more. 5. Mutual aid and basic organizing. With all the introductory stuff out of the way, let's get more concrete. Firstly, what is mutual aid? Mutual aid is collective coordination to meet each other's needs. We fundamentally understand that the systems we have in place are not going to meet those needs, and the aim of mutual aid projects is to develop this point. It's to set up alternative sources of that which your community is in need of, be it medical attention or housing or whatever else, accompanied by constant education, explaining why is it that their needs aren't being met in the first place. The best example that comes to mind, at least for the United States and other Western countries, is that of the Black Panthers. A dedicated Marxist group, they saw the direct injustices being dealt to their own African American communities, educated themselves with the relevant theory, and got to work developing a free children's breakfast program, community protection, free medical clinics and ambulance rides, aid to the elderly and infirm when they run errands, educational initiatives, and much more. Notice, they not only provided what their communities needed and weren't being provided in the first place, but also were delivering a clear and scathing criticism of the capitalist system and systemic racism in the US. To use an old Sufi adage, they not only fed the stomach, but the mind too. This process of educating those who benefited from the mutual aid projects of the Black Panthers instilled in those communities a drive for change, which is what made the Black Panthers so successful in the eyes of the working class and so dangerous in the eyes of the ruling class. On a side note, the police, being the radiantly positive organization that it is, broke into the church storing the food for the Black Panther free breakfast program and destroyed it, mostly by urinating and stepping on it, just in case you ever doubted whose side they're on. We need to make something abundantly clear. Mutual aid is not charity. In times of crisis, the ruling class pushes very safe, sanitized, and fairly ineffective organizations revolving around charity, in which the decisions on what is needed, how much, where, and to whom are completely disconnected from the people who are most affected by them. These institutions aren't intended to get at the root cause of whatever the issue is, be it poverty or homelessness or drug abuse or whatever else. Instead, it's designed as a pretty PR game for the rich and influential to beautify themselves and their ever so generous philanthropy, without ever even attempting to correct the issue at hand. It's symptomatic treatment, not a cure, and it's intended to make humane a system that is inherently inhumane. Side note, the question of security is very important, but sadly can't be discussed at the present time. Some quick points are community defense, community patrolling, basic security knowledge, both armed and unarmed methods of self-defense, first aid, and legal knowledge. You should keep all this in mind, and the internet is your best friend. 8. Concrete steps. What can we do immediately? This may sound a little silly, but talk. Talk to your family, your friends, your coworkers. Work within your community and bring together like-minded people. Join existing organizations if they're around, aid in currently existing mutual aid groups, and try to get involved in the organizing activity. Try to bring forth a simple to understand yet sharp criticism of capitalism. This is where the importance of educating yourself shines. You don't even need to mention socialism at first. It's enough to sow the seeds of doubt and to subsequently follow up when your community or those around you are more ready. Always relate your criticism of capitalism to people's direct issues: lack of employment and healthcare, infrastructure, even very specific material issues people face. Always properly analyze them and turn them into a quick, concise, and appreciated bit of knowledge to share about the failings of the current government and the capitalist system. The most fundamental point is to always be kind, patient, sympathetic, and non combative. It doesn't matter how good your arguments sound or how much your organization has helped if people feel you're arrogant, stubborn, inattentive, or just plain rude. A smile, a brisk, empathetic discussion, and an appreciation of others' perspectives, even if they're wrong, goes much farther than the debate bro facts and logic approach. Be kind, patient, and discuss with empathy. That's how we get people on our side. If you do your job right and convey the message appropriately, there's no way they'll reject you, as the things we want are directly in their and our interests. Now, suppose you have a bunch of people together. You're motivated, dedicated, educated, and ready to help. What's the next step? Your best bet is to start small. After your attempts at forming a basic political program, you'll need to find out what exactly is needed by your community. How exactly do you find this out, though? 9.
I think it's an interesting video. It's definitely propaganda. So if you guys want to check that out later on, it's called Revolution, a how-to guide, and the YouTube channel is Hakeem, right? I think it actually could be a good discussion, like panel discussion piece, as a matter of fact. Keter joined us. Lero joined us as well, saying peace, loved ones. Keter said it sounds like typical American advertising. Because Gavi is the way is laughing. Brother Bakari joined us in the chat. Say, what's up, everybody? Peace to Brother Bakari. Bobby Wright says Marxist propaganda is good at explaining socialism and revolution, as well as critiquing capitalism, but avoid racism at all costs. Ain't that something? Ain't that something at all costs? Kevin Carre, what say you to the video we just watched?
Well, to me, the guy that's speaking sounds like BS. That guy Ben Shapiro. that kind of turned me off. But I'm making it short. The most revolutionary thing we can do as a people is to always be with each other, to support your community and your community only. That's how it starts, and from then on, we can move forward. But that's all I have to say on this prompt, though.
So wait. So did you agree with the steps that you saw, or no?
Those are basic, you know. And I said somewhat outdated. We have to move forward with different ideas on how to get things done. You know, especially being in the system and the way things are going, especially for us here. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but for us here in the United States, you know, we have to start thinking differently and on how you get things done. You can't keep using the same playbook. You know, just like a football coach today using the playbook from the 1950s ain't gonna work.
Right. Let's see if gas them up is a gas. What say you?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I think the video was okay, right? It's okay for what it is. I know I don't use that term revolutionary, right? When you look at the linguistics and the spells that are cast upon us, what is a revolution, right? Revolution is 360 degrees. It's a full circle. Mm-hmm. So if I start in one location and I do 360 degrees, right, where do I end up? Yeah. Same location. I haven't gone anywhere, right? So, you know, and it just shows you, right, that these people are only trying to interior decorate their prison. They're not trying to get outside of the capitalist system. And that's why I find it difficult to have certain conversations, because a lot of people are trying to find ways to modify the enslavement within the capitalist system. No one's trying to say, hey, let's step away, right? I'll end with this example. I think I've said it before, but Milton Friedman had that great argument where he says, capitalism is a great system and economic system because democratic people vote with their feet, and that if you don't like one employer, you can move to another employer. But C.V. McPherson and you know, the Canadians, very smart people in philosophy, he said, but wait, Milton Friedman, that's not freedom, right? Like freedom is not only the ability to switch your employer, but the ability to refuse the right to work. And they've stripped that from us, right? You can't just go on your farm and be a subsistence farmer or have your small business. They often look down upon it, like in the other prompt that was earlier, right? We look down on those people who just want to subsist from day to day because it's not good for nation building and it's not productive, right? So it's an interesting thing that I think we do. So for me, I hope I'm no longer revolutionary. And so I'll end with that.
I appreciate that, Gas. Real Black Gentleman, you let me know when you're back. Tanzan, what say you? Do you agree with these steps?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That was the soft propaganda. I think that
Your phone is seemed like it got the disease that Gas phone had earlier.
Oh, is it still doing that?
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay, I'll try to log out and log in.
With that said, Wanahagaziki, what say you?
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna be easy with this because I run afoul with my socialist Pan African brothers and sisters when I critique socialism and communism. When I talk about religion, I run afoul of my Christian Pan African brothers and sisters. But what I would say is this: here's the thing. Uh, when Castro died, his net worth was $900 million. He used to go on private islands in Cuba, out like on the Isles, and go on private islands and have his enjoyment in these sports and things of that nature. BLM BLM got 90 million, and they were Marxists, by the way, and they went to the suburbs and built a nice palatial home where they could live happily ever after. Some people are, or all of us are equal, but some of us are more equal than others. That's all I say about that. I have my issues with the whole socialism, communism game. I'm not going to be critical of them. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I figure for me, a revolution to me is the revolution of the mind first. We have to disabuse ourselves with how we've been conditioned. That needs to be revolved first and foremost. When you revolve the mind of the individual, and then be able to see what comes of that. But as far as this total overthrow and getting rid of and replacing it, just give me an idea of where we're gonna go. Because if we're gonna go down to socialism, I live in a country where there's big government, too much government overreach into the private lives of people. I'm not about that. I'm anti that. I want as little government intervention as possible. You take care of protecting me, you take care of the so-called essential services, and that's it. You know what I mean? Let the people be allowed to live freely and do the things they need to do. Besides protection, besides the limited essential services that need to be done, get out of my business, get out of my house, get out of my private affairs. I don't want you creeping in. And I live in a place where there's too much governmental overreach. So I want as little of it as possible. That's why I am with it. You know.
Do you have a better word? I guess it just goes back to Gas from Trigger Happy 262. What's the better word in terms of changing society?
It doesn't have to be revolution. It could be evolution. It could be evolution if we're looking for wordplay. It could be evolution because we have tried revolution. Well, I mean, some political systems have tried the so-called proverbial revolution in the world. Some societies have tried capitalism, but not pure capitalism. That's not necessarily been tried nowhere in the world yet. But what I would say is that the great thinkers in Africa and in the Caribbean and even in the Americas and South America need to sit down to the table and do some thinking. Karl Marx and what's the other guy's name? Hegel. Hegel paid for Karl Marx not to work, but to think. That was his job, to think. And in him sitting down and thinking, he was able to construct this idea that influenced the whole world. I don't know what job Adam Smith had when he created this whole paradigm of capitalism and all that good stuff. But I just think that we need to pay for our thinkers to sit down at the table and our economists in particular, to sit down at the table and say what is best for us. What would be the best solution economically for us to go forward, to be the most productive people in the world? And I don't know if that's been done yet, but I think that needs to be considered. I know the Jewish nation have done it. I think the whites have done it. I don't necessarily think that we've done it as far as what we need to do to go forward as a people economically. Economically, I don't know if that's been done yet. I know Thomas Sowell. He's the only. Well, he's a conservative, but that's a whole nother matter. But I just say that I think it's need to sit down at the table and really have a good think as to what we need to do to go forward economically as a people. Maybe not uniformly all around the world, but what would be a good solution for us? And then test it out and then execute it and see how that works. If it's bad, then we correct on it. We make improvements on it. I know Nkrumah talked about it. I know Nyerere talked about it. Different thinkers, but all of them had different leanings, whether it's socialism or capitalism. All of them had different leanings. There's never, like I say, there's never been an African solution to our problems yet. And I know there's been theorists and philosophers and great thinkers in Africa, but I haven't. Maybe Gas could point me to a book that well, you know what? Well, he's even the rebirth of African civilization. What I was hearing, my sister Matron read, that had socialist leanings in it. That I agree with some of it, but not everything. So I think that could be improved on. I think that could be improved on. And I think that the thinkers need to put that to the table and really see if it's executed, whether that would be good for our people.
Thank you for that, Mr. Untouchable. Do me a favor. Trigger Happy 262 is directing a lot of questions. I believe it's your way now. If you could respond to those in the chat at least with him. Tanzan is back. Tanzan, what say you? Do you agree with these steps, or how would you go about it?
Yeah, well, I think I think it's not a revolution. It's just an exchange of one system for another. Because if we look at historically what the socialists are doing, it's just doing things a different way, but things are basically, just always end up the same. Somehow, a few people are in charge of many people, and many people end up suffering in different degrees. But when it comes to the steps, what he's talking about is quite benign compared to what he is trying to do. He criticizes sharply, the ills of capitalism, but yet he does not really present firstly the foundation of socialism, and the fact that whether it can work or not, and how it can tackle the current problems of capitalism. Because while yes, it would be nice for human beings to work together and go to that organization, the world is not organized in that way anymore. You don't have trade unions and people gathering together in town halls and things like that. And so they haven't really updated their version of it. And then the second thing is, he's glossing over too much of the other aspect of that other system. But in any case, the steps are just for for basic organization. I don't think that they lead to anything other than people getting better organized in whichever system they are in. And those steps work in any organization, in any system. It works in socialist, capitalism, a mixture, the old ways. So they're just taking things which work generally for human beings, and then appropriating that for for their own, which maybe it could be a good thing. But sometimes and that's something that even Africans will fall for it, because we see aspects of our culture in other people's culture, and then we want to claim everything of that other, or the opposite. So sometimes you don't have to
So,
give
10, we're not Jews? I thought we were Moorish, Hebrew, Blackfoot, Red Indian, Garveyite. No?
Wow. Okay. Yes, we're all that and none of that. How about that? We're all that and none of it. But yeah, that's all I'll say for now. So yes.
Thank you for that, Tan. Brother Bakari in the chat said Gaviism is the African solution to our economic problem. We just forget about it. I do believe we really do forget about Gaviism, and trying to put it into true practice. Did Real Black Gentleman return? All right, maybe not. So I think I got everyone on that one, right? If there's no last words, we can move on to Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 4